Hey everyone, welcome back to T&C Travel. I'm Tony, and this is actually the 5th video in a series of videos I've been making, basically documenting our epic 2017 Europe trip. Now, we were able to visit 6 cities in 5 countries, and this is Barcelona, Spain. This is after Rome, Italy, where we spent a couple days there. Now, what you're watching here on the video is the meeting spot for our free walking tour. So I've talked about this a couple times, both in the Venice and the Rome videos, and this is one of the rare occasions where it was really, really good. Now, we've since decided to stop these free walking tours, but this is one of our favorites, and I'm going to dive deeper into this city here in a minute. So when we booked with this specific company, there were a couple of options, and the option that we chose was the Antoni Gaudi tour, free walking tour. So it basically was throughout the city, looking at all the various projects that the famed architect Antoni Gaudi worked on. Now, he's most famous for the basilica, the famous church, La Sagrada Familia. But that's not all you look at on this free walking tour. They take you around to various buildings that he had a hand in, and this is just along the path from the meeting spot towards finishing at La Sagrada Familia. So this is just a random parade that was walking by in the city of Barcelona. They were walking and driving their old collector cars, and we just took a minute to stop, stand under the shade, and capture some of these cars as they drove by. So one of the first stops on this free walking tour was the building called Casa Batll, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, but you're going to hear me and Christine in the video actually talk about this tour a little bit and how worth it was. So I'll just play the tape now and let you watch it.
Hi.
Where are we?
We're now in Barcelona.
What are we doing?
We're getting a Gaudi tour. This looks like the building we're looking at. And I don't think that's his building. That's one of his students or somebody that's also a famous architect. And then there's that one.
Famous architect from Barcelona, Spain. This is the second stop on a free tour. It's totally worth it so far. Like it a lot. One of the things I wanted to highlight about this free walking tour was that there was a metro ride involved, and the directions were so crystal clear, not only in the description before we signed up, but with our tour guide. She was incredible. She was really knowledgeable and just had a passion for what she was doing. But you pay for your own metro fare, you hop on a train, and she gets you to where you need to go, and it's just a big group that sticks together the entire time. And right here is where we're approaching La Sagrada Familia. I wanted to just take a minute and tell you how we booked our tickets. We did book them online prior to, and you have a small window of about 30 minutes. You can't go early. They're not going to let you in. I believe they'll let you go in late after your set time, but not early. There's hundreds of people waiting to get in, and the security's pretty fierce. There's metal detectors, there's pat-downs, the whole 9, similar to an airport. I'm going to let the video play a little bit here just so you get an idea of how big this structure is, and then I'll dive deeper into it. While this is playing, I'll tell you a quick funny story. It's funny now, but when we left Rome and got on the plane to go to Barcelona, we were on the tarmac for like 45 minutes. Well, it turned out that a lady fell on the steps getting onto the plane, so that was the first delay. And find out there's an electrical issue. Now, we're not terrified, but we're paranoid, going, well, an electrical issue seems kind of like a big deal. But nonetheless, we were delayed another 45 minutes inside the plane, and they're calming us down. They're telling us everything is going to be okay. But in the back of your mind, you're like, okay, what's going on really? Nonetheless, after a total of an hour and a half, we finally took off and got there safely. The basilica is not only known for its design and its legendary architect, but it may be known for something that's just not as flattering, in that it's taken as long as it has to build. So the project originally started in 1882. Gaudi, the architect, died in 1926, and it's still under construction. The video you're seeing here is from 2017, almost 3 years ago. It's 2020 now. They don't anticipate finishing it until 2026, the 100-year mark of Gaudi's death. What you're watching right here is after we've gone through security, we're at the front door. There's a big space where you're able to take pictures and take your time enjoying the exterior before you actually go inside. And that's what we're doing right here. We took a ton of pictures, hung out for about 15 minutes. And I just want to warn you, this is before I got a bunch of camera gear, GoPros, stabilizers, and stuff like that. I was just using my phone at the highest definition possible back then, so the quality of my videos have gotten better, but this is all I had at the time. So in this shot right here, you're going to actually see more of the exterior of the building, the detail in the sculptures of the facade, but then you're going to see us go in. And surprisingly, for all of our travels in Europe, it really wasn't as crowded as I thought it was going to be. And I think that's because of the way they do the staggered entrances with those 30-minute markers. Now, once you go inside, there's a ton of room to roam around, take as many pictures as you need, and there are plenty of benches and seating areas for you to enjoy the scenery. I will tell you, the exterior for us was a lot more impactful than the interior. Now, it is a place of worship, and they do mass on occasion. It's not like you would think. In fact, it was one of the questions that came up with our tour guide. But here's a shot of the interior once you walk in from outside. And I guess all I wanted to say here is I'm not a big fan of going to every church in every major city in Europe, but this one is iconic. I mean, this is world famous, and there's only a few churches that can call themselves world famous, and the two that really come to mind is this one and the Vatican. So for us, it was a must-see. It was the ticket to get into the church was completely separate from the free walking tour. I think it's obvious, but I feel better saying it out loud. Again, for us, completely worth it and totally worth the trip. And as you watch some more footage of the interior of the church, I just wanted to let you know what we did next. We basically got some lunch. We went and ate, and then we bought tickets to Parc Guell, which is a public park, but you do have to pay to get into. And it was designed by Antoni Gaudi. So the same person who was the architect of the basilica you're looking at now helped to design the park. And it's got his fingerprints all over it. We'll show you that footage here in just a second. But I did want to make a point to tell you that it is an additional ticket to get in. Relatively easy. You get there, there's a ticketing booth, you grab your ticket, and you go in. Very different than having to buy your ticket ahead of time to skip the line here at the Basilica. So I'm going to let the video play out and just give you a couple of pointers. So this is the lookout at the top of the park that shows you some incredible views of the city of Barcelona. Now, the park itself, I'm sure, has guided tours if you're looking for them. We didn't. We have a friend who's actually from Spain and gave us some pointers and told us that, you know, self-navigating through the park and just taking your time looking at everything was the way to go, and that's how we did it. But this lookout's pretty awesome. We ended up hanging out here for quite a while, and the weather was just perfect. It was like mid-80s Fahrenheit. I know Europe uses Celsius, but it was really nice, and we just hung out and enjoyed the scenery, took a ton of pictures. We did not opt for a tour guide on this one. I just wanted to show you this video real quick to show you how easy it is to get around. Now, we did a ton of walking, we always do in Europe, but their public transportation system is fantastic, from the buses to the metro. It was really easy to navigate, and if you have Google Maps on your phone, it's even easier. I've talked about it in previous videos, but we spend $10 a day on international data, and we can use our phone overseas just like we do here. Alright, and here you are actually seeing the magic fountain of Montjuic. I think I'm saying that right. But nonetheless, on Fridays, they actually do a light show like you're seeing here, to music, and there's a lot of people out and about. And in the backdrop, what you see is the museum, the National Museum of Art. And I get a little bit closer in a minute, but this view of the city with the fountain, it is pretty magical, and there's a lot of people, but everybody's really kind, and it's semi-organized, and nobody's pushing and shoving because there's not a bad seat in the house. We stood on this bridge where you could see both the city and the fountain in the view. And here we get a little bit closer, but I just wanted to take a minute to tell you about the people of Barcelona. Just amazing people, kind and helpful, and genuinely happy that you're there to visit in the city, the country, the culture, the food. That's another thing I haven't really talked about, is the food in Barcelona is incredible. I don't think I have video footage on this of the tapas that we enjoyed during the trip, but it's probably my favorite food in the world besides Italian. Nonetheless, the city and the people are just so lovely and very helpful. I think that's one of my biggest takeaways in getting to know people there was, if you are lost or if you have a question about something, they're just incredibly helpful and just gracious and grateful that you're visiting the city, the country, and getting to know them as a people and the culture. They don't have the richest history in the world, and there are tough times for them right now, but they're just such incredible people. And behind the fountain, you can actually walk up the steps that get you closer to this, the National Museum of Art. Sorry, I keep saying it wrong, but they put on the spotlights in the backdrop that make for some spectacular photos. So again, we're on like this middle level between the fountain and the museum where these four pillars are, and we really enjoyed it. Beautiful weather. We went in May, late April, May, and it was just spectacular. Everything about it.
There it is. Zoom back out. This is at the water fountain show. We got here just before sunset and took some amazing pictures. And now we're just enjoying the view of the palace with the light show, or the spotlights coming from behind. Incredible. Just perfect architecture.
I do want to point out we saw a lot more of Barcelona than what you're seeing in this video. I just didn't have a lot of it documented and recorded. I want to avoid using as many still photos as I can making these videos. And this is one of my coolest stories. We actually left the hotel for the day and we went towards the Gothic Quarter. There was a tour available for the Gothic Quarter, but we decided to just kind of go on our own at our own pace. And as we were approaching the Gothic Quarter, we heard that hypnotic music that you heard right at the beginning of this clip. And as we got closer, we saw people praying and worshiping in an old Catalonian dance called the Sardana. And I'm a big believer that travel can teach you much more than a textbook ever will. And this is just a prime example of that. I had no idea what this dance was. I saw them practicing it, and then once I researched it, I learned a lot more about it. And this is what we witnessed as we approached the Cathedral De Barcelona, or the Barcelona Cathedral. And I know I mentioned it earlier, but I just want to take another second to tell you how lovely the people in Barcelona were. So friendly, so helpful, and just endearing people that I really left a mark with me. I can't wait to go back, not just to Barcelona, but to see the rest of Spain someday. It's very high on our list. As this video plays, I'm just going to let you enjoy the architecture of the Gothic Quarter. It's a huge part of Barcelona and its identity, and so few cities in the world are known for their architecture as much as Barcelona is, and how much of that influenced other parts of the world and other times in our history. So it's pretty cool. I'm a big fan of architecture in general. Even here in the States, there's only a few cities that are well known for it, like Chicago and New York, and Barcelona is no different in Europe. Just really iconic and identifiable architecture. And as this video plays and highlights some more of the architecture in the city, I want to tell you a quick story. So anytime we go on a trip, Christine and I will sit down with our wish list of places we want to go. Especially with Europe, knowing we can cram a couple of different cities in at once, we'll both come to the table with where we want to go. Christine is the one that brought Barcelona to the table, and I fought tooth and nail. I did not want to go. It was not on my list, and I was just so pleasantly surprised and absolutely fell in love. As you can probably tell by the commentary on this video, it's just such an amazing city with so many different aspects of it that I fell in love with. And here in this video footage, we're actually in the back of what we call a pedicab back when I grew up. It's in the back of a bicycle cab. And we were just enjoying the harbor, all the shops and the food, and he was actually taking us to the beach. And you're not going to see too much footage on the beach itself because, again, I didn't record a ton of video on this trip, but it's a beautiful city. I'm probably beating a dead horse by now, but it really was one of my highlights of this trip. And finally, you're seeing footage of a fair that they held right in the middle of the city. You could buy tickets and buy food and sample the drinks and such. But as the video plays out and finishes, I just wanted to tell you how much we loved it and how much I recommend Barcelona. This was the 5th stop on the 2017 Epic Europe trip, where we went to 6 cities in 5 countries. I really appreciate you guys hanging out, and hopefully you're learning something from these videos because I really enjoy making them. Drop a like or subscribe for more. Thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate you stopping by.